Hey guys, Steve Welch here. Wanted to bring you guys something that is a issue that a lot of people are going to start running into. So electric cars have been around for a little while now, and they're finding themselves on the used car market. All right, so not normally an issue when you see a car that's on a used car market, especially if it's late model, low miles, things like that. You're not normally going to have a problem with it, but these electric cars have something that is inherently going to be a problem, and if you buy a used one, you need to know about this. All right, so there was a news story from Fox Business that talked about a Florida family drives into an electric car problem. All right, and what they said is they bought a used vehicle. Right, it was a for a 17-year-old. So and they said that it was a 2014 Ford Focus that they bought for $11,000 as a used electric car. You can get and it had 60,000 miles, by the way. If you can get a 2014 anything with 60,000 miles on it right now for $11,000, you've probably done all right. Just saying, right? So, so they had the car for 6 months, right? And then they said it began giving her issues, the dashboard flashing symbols. By the way, symbols on your dashboard, usually not good. But she said it was fine at first. I loved it so much. It was small, quiet, cute. All of a sudden it stopped working, right? So she had told KVUE that the car had stopped running after taking it to a repair shop. They eventually found out that the car's battery would have to be replaced. Now keep in mind, we're not talking about the little battery under the hood. We're not even talking about something like a hybrid would have, which hybrid batteries are not as big, is not as dense as the batteries that go into these electric cars. But they found out that the battery for the electric car that she had was going to cost $14,000. Yeah, the car cost 11, the battery would cost 14. That means your car is totaled, by the way. But keep in mind your insurance isn't totaling it, you are. All right, so they're that 11,000, it's pretty well gone right now on the 2014 with 60,000 miles on it, right? So here's the bigger issue. They also found out that if they could pay the 14,000 for it, it didn't really matter. Battery's not available. You can't get the battery for that car. So they had discontinued. So it, like they said, it could have cost twice that amount. We still couldn't get it. So a little bit about what I really wanted to make this video for. And you guys know that I try to help you guys out. I try to give you information. And there is going to be used electric vehicles on the market. It's going to come up. There are a lot of things that you should do when you are going to buy a used electric car. Now, I will mention that, and I'm going to put this in the description as well. Kelley Blue Book actually had a pretty good thing that said 10 things to know before an article, 10 things to know before buying a used electric car, right? And keep in mind that this article is not critical of electric cars. I mean, it even starts off, it says, may seem intimidating at first, but especially if you never owned one, that requires some different thinking on gasoline. There are extra things to consider when looking at a used vehicle. But it says used electric vehicles can be a fantastic value. However, a little research ahead of time can make you make an intelligent decision. Like I said, this isn't critical, all right? And I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just trying to help you out, right? So they suggest 10 things that you should do before buying a used electric vehicle, and I think these are all really good things. So use the battery life as a bargaining chip. It's a good thing to say, right? Obviously, if it says a car dealership service department can give you a detailed report on battery health. That's not 100% accurate, because it can tell you good or bad, but it can't really tell you if you have like a piece that's about to go bad. So it's okay. Take that with a grain of salt, right? So it says you can always charge, and this is the way to really do it. So charge the electric car to 100% and see what the estimated range says. All right, so comparing this to the original rating will give you an idea what's left. All right, so I've talked to one of our mechanics, Robert. You've seen him on our on my channel here before, so I want to thank Robert for kind of consulting with me on this a little bit. But basically, we're kind of talking that even if it says that there's X number of range or something like that, it might not actually have the range that it says it has. Have you ever drove your car and it says, hey, you've got, X number of miles per gallon, and then you actually do the math and find out it's off just a little bit? It's the same type of thing. It can be off. It's an estimate. Those are all estimators. They're not called exact. They're all estimated miles remaining on your battery, right? So they're all just estimated, an estimate of what's left on the vehicle there. So don't expect a 100 battery life report on a used electric car. Don't be dismayed if it only offers 3/4 of its original range. Most drivers don't add more than 40 or 50 miles to an odometer per day anyway, so if you're buying it for your commute, shorter range might be just fine. All right, like I said, that's something to look at. But what I would suggest doing is, go to 100% battery life and drive the thing for a set number of miles, 20, 30, 40 miles, and see what the remainder has, and see if that little estimator is somewhat accurate. It's an idea. Don't drive it till it's empty. That doesn't make any sense, but just, something like that. But you need to have some type of an idea of how much life's left in your battery. Now I will say too, number 2 on here is to find out if your battery's been replaced. If it's been replaced, then you probably have a lot more time left on the battery than if it was 5 or 6 or 8 years old and never been replaced. If that 2014 battery had been replaced in 2020, well, obviously that wouldn't have been an issue now because it would have already been replaced. But the car would have been worth more, right? So that's something else to consider. So it says battery failure is rare, but it does happen. Higher mileage electric cars are more likely to have had their batteries replaced, right? And a seller can provide you with documentation confirming the work. That's a major issue, right? So you can take care of that, or they could have taken care of that already. So, basically, yeah, that's. It's a good point, right? Now, there are 2 different kinds of batteries. So you can have a brand new battery or a refurbished battery. Now I found out from some of my research, and we're talking to Robert, and that some of the batteries that you see getting replaced, whether it's on a hybrid, whether it's on a electric vehicle, they will say refurbished. All right. Keep in mind, if it's a refurbished battery, that does not necessarily mean that every cell is replaced. That means that whatever the bad cell they found, they replaced that cell, or they replaced that piece of the battery, or whatever that particular thing was. Maybe they cleaned it, it worked fine, and then they came back. And so a refurbished battery likely could work for you, but it might not give you what you're seeking. It's not a refurbished does not mean it's completely redone. It just means they fixed what was wrong a lot of times. So beware on that. It will be cheaper to get a refurbished battery because of that. So it might be a way to go, but just know what you're getting, right? So this number 3 says investigate how much the battery warranty is left. All right, so all of the manufacturers, so according to what this says, that the battery coverage it sounds like it's a federal thing, actually, from some of the articles I've read, that it has to be 8 years and 100,000 miles or better for your battery warranty, for whichever one comes first. Now keep in mind that not all the warranties go to the second owner, so you have to make sure what you're looking for and know what the brand car is. This isn't a couple $100 under the hood battery. You guys need to make sure you know what you're looking at when you buy that new vehicle, right? So just saying, right? So you can always look at the VIN number and find all that out. So it says ask about maintenance history. Well, that's a lot of what we've already been talking about, but they made it a separate number. But you definitely can show, maintenance history. So locate the capacity, right? So you want to find out, what the capacity of the battery is. right? So not a bad thing. Determine what range you need, right? So it suggests that you can buy a car that has a little less range, if for a cheaper price. If you only need 10 miles a day, well, the fact that it can do 100 miles a day, that doesn't really come into play. You only need 15, 20, whatever the miles that you think you need. But there are some out there that'll reach about 400 miles on a charge, and they're probably going to surpass that number here before too long. So keep in mind something else though. The more miles you can go, likely the heavier the battery is, the more it will cost to replace all of that stuff is going to come into play with that. The bigger the distance, that's probably going to be the case. Now, if there are some new technologies that come out that allow them to be lighter, which I have no doubt that will come out, it's just not there yet, but allow them to be lighter with more range, so be it. But as of right now, we're July of 22. This is accurate, right? So now keep in mind that all cars don't charge at the same rate. So there are different kind of chargers, and I'm going to go over that with this EV Connect article that I've got too. But there are different chargers that level 1, 2, and 3 all take different amount of times to charge it, right? So and then also it says in here, consider your access to chargers. If you have a charger at work and you know that you can run and charge it up at work, great, right? So consider that. Now consider something else too, and actually this gives you, so level 1 refers to a household 3-prong plug, right? So if you only need 20 or 30 miles of a charge, this could work. Keep in mind that 20 or 30 miles of a charge will likely take all night to put into the car. They don't grab electricity fast out of that. So a level 2 charger is the 240 volts. So you have the 120 volt on the first one, the 240 volt on the second one, and that says you can add about 25 miles of charge per hour, right? So the other one, it says you add about 4 miles of range per hour from plugging it in. So that's probably an average amount, but plug it in for an hour and you can drive 4 miles. Add it up. So if you're driving 30 or 40 miles from work, you got to have it plugged in for 10 hours for 40 miles. That's just the way that charger is going to work. So the level 1 charger, from what it looks like here, you're going to get, it's going to take you about 24 hours to charge. The level 2 charger will usually take you somewhere, depending on the size of the battery, probably 8 to 10 hours or so to charge. Then your level 3 is also called a fast charge. The fast charge option, it will normally let you charge, it says right here, quick chargers can add 160 mile of range to a Chevy Bolt EV in an hour, but you'll only find those in public charging stations, and they typically will charge you to use them. So keep in mind too that when you charge that fast charger, you'll actually degrade your battery quicker. So it's actually better to do the slower charge to have your battery last longer, which is part of what we're talking about here. And it also says research government utility incentives, and then check for charging accessories, right? So if you're going to add it to your house and stuff like that, to when you charge, you need to know what that's going to cost, because that will be important to whether or not it makes sense for you to get one. So got another article. Like I said, this is from EV Connect, right? So I believe that EV Connect is actually one that is a charging solution for you. So I believe that's what it is, because it says solutions, industries, incentives, partners, resource drivers. But I believe that's what this is. So how long does an electric car battery last? Right? And I know I'm getting long. I'm doing this on purpose. I want you to have the information. All right. So, but it's saying the basics, right? So electric cars are powered by rechargeable lithium-ion batteries. Most are lithium-ion because they're denser than the lead-acid batteries. And its high energy density means it produces more power for its size, making it ideal for an electric car. Keep in mind too, that also means they produce more heat. So you always want to make sure that it's cooled well too, and don't block any vents or anything like that are coming from the inside of the car to help cool the battery. Wouldn't be a good thing to let that battery get too hot. So because EVs are powered by the battery alone, they're far more simple and efficient than internal combustion engine vehicles. The lithium-ion battery's cost has decreased by 97% over 30 years, yet that one was still going to cost $14,000. I wonder how much they were 30 years ago. Well, anyway, so how do the EV batteries degrade? All right, keep in mind this Article 2 is also positive about EVs and EV batteries. I'm not trying to be negative on EVs, guys. EVs are going to come to the market. Everybody is going to have them. I will sell them, and I know I will sell them. And I just want people to have the information. That's all I'm going for here. So how do they degrade? They degrade due to temperature cycles and time. All right. So storage and operating temperatures have a huge impact on EV battery longevity in general. Warmer climates negatively affect the lifespan of the EV battery. As a battery goes through charge cycles, discharge while driving and charge back up while plugged in, it slowly loses maximum potential. However, simply not using or charging your battery does not mean it will last forever. It also has something called calendar degradation. Easy for me to say, which is the battery losing life over time. So even if you're not using it, that battery is going to lose life. So unlike the lithium-ion batteries found in a phone or a laptop, the EV batteries utilize complex battery management systems that regulate how the batteries are charged and discharged to prolong their life. This means your EV battery is most likely to experience temperature or calendar degradation. Now keep in mind too, and I'm going to add something to this, that anytime you charge something all the way to full or let it go all the way to dead, that actually will lessen the life of the battery. That doesn't matter what kind of battery it is. That's right, like you see like on a hybrid from Toyota, they never get above 80% or below 20%. They find out that's the way to have the longest longevity of the batteries. And obviously this is using a battery just, like what a hybrid would use, just a different battery, but it's the same principles, right? So how long does an electric car battery last? So this is like I said before, guys. So how long can you expect your EV battery to last? Fortunately for customers, the government mandates EV manufacturers to warranty the batteries for 8 years or 100,000 miles, while California makes them 10 years or 150,000 miles. That's a mandate from the government. All right. So as the packs become cheaper to manufacturers, companies can create larger batteries with more energy potential, which in turn increases their mileage range. Now I'm going to add something else to this too. If they're required by the government to warranty them for 8 years or 100,000 miles, they may not make them bigger because it would cost more to replace them. So they might not make them to where they're up to their full potential, just because they know that if there's a replacement cost, they're going to bear that cost. So I'm just saying it could happen too. But anyway, so it says, additionally, the improved technology reduces the degradation of batteries, meaning that over time the maximum potential stays closer to the new battery. And because newer batteries already have greatly increased in mileage range, as they degrade, they will still maintain a longer mileage range than batteries from just a few years ago. Finally, the lithium-ion batteries are made up of many individual cells that you rarely need to replace the entire battery as it degrades. Instead, you can save money by simply replacing dead cells. And that is true in most cases, other than the fact that most of the times it seems like you can't just get a cell for it. I mean, we'll see what goes as we go forward, but if they don't sell just the cell, they only sell the whole battery, well, there you go. So how does the EV battery longevity compare to an internal combustion engine, right? So both of the mandated warranty numbers, 8 years, 100,000 miles for EV batteries, far exceed the average internal combustion vehicle drivetrain warranty of 5 years or 60,000. The average lifetime mileage of an internal combustion engine is about 133,000 miles, unless you buy a Toyota, which I will say, if I was just looking at a Toyota Tacoma that had over 400,000 miles on it, just so you can kind of say that. And I've seen several with over 500,000. So it depends on the car, right, guys? You all know that. You guys watch my channel. You're mostly Toyota people, so you definitely all know that, right? So, but the average battery says it'll last around 200,000 miles. But some manufacturers already promise much more than that. Keep in mind, a promise isn't a warranty. I could promise to be there at 5 p.m. tonight, but that doesn't mean that I warranty that I'll be there at 5 p.m. tonight. I'm going to try, right? So, but it says the news gets better. Tesla has their sights on a 1,000,000-mile battery. That would be amazing, right? And claims they're not far from achieving it. But on average, and this is from somebody that's, like I said, they're favorable towards the batteries, right? An EV battery only degrades at a rate of 2.3% of maximum capacity per year. So that means that over 10 years, you're going to have 23% of the capacity no longer available in that battery if it lasts 10 years, right? So by the time that 10 year or even 8 years, so we're 20% over 8 years, something like that. So after 8 years, you can only charge your battery to 80%. And keep in mind, it might only go to 80% of 80%. So realistically, you're probably only up to about 60 because you're going to have it. It's not going to let it fully deplete. So even if you fully charge the thing, it won't let it fully deplete. So you might have that, a 300-mile battery that'll only give you 150 miles. Because you're not going to go all the way to a full charge and you're not going to go all the way to a zero charge because it's trying to maintain the battery. So you might get caught with that too. So make sure that you do your due diligence to find out what the battery's doing, right? So it says how to extend the battery life. It says they're already durable, but if you follow the manufacturer's guidelines, and it says maintain moderate temperatures. Here's the thing: keep the car in your garage most likely, as long as you don't have certain cars that are prone to fires. We won't say which ones, but they are. You can look it up if you want to. But as long as you don't have certain cars that are, that you're worried about catching on fire, if you keep it in your garage, the battery might last longer because your garage might be at a better temperature. If you're in a climate like that's averages hopefully somewhere around 70 degrees, your battery is going to last longer, right? So anytime that you can maintain a lower operating temperature, things along those lines, it's going to maintain it, right? And then this part, you should minimize rapid charging. So those fast charges, the 30-minute charges, things like that, that puts a ton of strain on the battery, and it will actually cause you to degrade your battery quicker. So like I said, even this particular company, they mentioned that it's going to cause that, but they said don't be afraid to use your EV, as frequent use is not a major factor in battery degradation. But it's obviously over time, anything use of a battery will cause it to degrade over time. So, and then it also mentions here too that because a lot of people say, well, once those batteries are dead, what happens with them? Like I said, a few of them will be refurbished. They're going to, try to use those things. They might take some batteries and kind of like piece part stuff together, use good cells off of ones, stuff like that to put them together. But so for eco-conscious customers, the batteries can still serve a purpose after they leave your EV, even as they lose efficiency to power a car, or usually at 70% of their maximum charge potential. They still retain enough life to pair with solar and serve as a secondary energy for your home. Some manufacturers even collect or buy back used batteries to sustainably power other projects, such as sports arenas. You can feel secure in knowing the sustainability of your EV power continues long after it leaves your vehicles. It says as EV batteries continue to decrease in cost, travel more miles on a charge, and retain longer lifespans, experts already suggest EV batteries will exceed the longevity of an internal combustion engine components, and technology improves every year. It's all good news. Your EV battery will serve your needs for years to come, and it can even be recycled after its life of powering your vehicle. So what's the end of it, right? So basically the whole point in showing you all of this is to let you know that you need to know what you're buying with a used electric vehicle. You need to know what you're buying with a new one. Realize that the battery is important, and don't get caught off guard, especially as these things start to get near the end, and you might have some people that do some things that could be, we'll call it somewhat shady, when it comes to being able to quickly sell their car when they know the battery's about to be done. So anything older, really old hybrids, things like that, realize your battery is probably started to degrade by, hopefully a lot. And if it hasn't been replaced, it will likely need to be replaced. So even in a hybrid, that's a thing. If you've got like an '08 or, '06 Prius, something like that, if the battery hasn't been replaced, realize it probably is going to need to. Now that being said, once it gets replaced, you'll get your fuel economy and everything else will probably come right back, because it's not going to be relying so much on the gas engine. But EVs don't have the capability to go off of a gas engine. Hopefully I've helped you guys out. Hopefully I've given you some information to at least think about if you're buying a used EV. Like I said, these things are getting better. I mean, you always want to say daily they're getting better, but at least yearly they're getting better. They're getting more longevity to them. They are getting more power to them, more range, more everything. And I know that that's one of the ways that most people see the car industry going. I think it's more hybrid, but I mean, yeah, who knows? It's just something that's part of it all, and I mean, it's something that's gonna be part of our lives for a while. And I just wanted you guys to be able to think about that before you buy a used EV. So hopefully this helped you guys out. I'm Steve Welch, and I definitely appreciate you guys. Hopefully if you got some benefit out of this, you can like and subscribe, and I look forward to talking to you guys later. You guys have a good one. Bye.